Brigadier Singh, first off, what do you make of this revelation? I mean, it's like the entire plan, like Israel had the entire Hamas attack plan, the battle plan, and yet they did nothing about it over a year ago.
I think the story in the New York Times could perhaps be seen from two contrasting perspectives. You know, the first perspective is that the story is absolutely true and they had the plans. And like you said, it is almost as if the US would have got the entire Pearl Harbor plan or even the 9/11 plan when in advance. Now, if this perspective, meaning that the story is true, it's correct, then it's a terrible, terrible repeat of the strategic failure of 1973.
Right.
And therefore, I shouldn't be saying it, but a sterling, but a very debilitating example of institutional arrogance and hubris overriding intelligence inputs, leading to a massive failure of the assessment or the correct assessment of the available intelligence information. Now, it would also be a damning indictment of the Israeli intelligence communities and its adjuncts' inability to learn any lesson from the past,
Right.
especially because in the 1973 Yom Kippur War, Israel won the war solely because of the immense support provided by the USA.
Right.
Now, the second perspective, I had said two perspectives. So, with your permission, I'll outline the second perspective also. The second contrasting perspective is that the report is now being leaked to the NYT is perhaps a fabrication.
Right.
And is aimed at redeeming the very badly damaged reputation of the Israeli intelligence community or IC, the intelligence community, the IC as we call it. But we do know that the head of the research division of Israel's intelligence division had twice told Netanyahu that the political social crisis in Israel was encouraging Iran, Hamas, Hezbollah, etc. to attack the nation. But this, it should be noted that this was a generic warning and not a specific warning about the attack by Israel. There was yet another warning, and it is confirmed now that Israel's National Security Advisor, Zaki Hanegbi, had called the head of the Shin Bet, that is Israel Domestic Service Security Service, Ronen Bar, at about 4 a.m. on 7th October, which is just about 2 to 3 hours before the attack began, and to discuss with him new intelligence information.
Right.
But overall, at the national security level, it was decided there was no need for a military mobilization. So whichever is the case is, it doesn't speak well about the overall capability and the efficiency of Israel's much wanted, much flaunted, much appreciated intelligence community, and it's all junk.
No, that's a very good perspective, Brigadier Singh, and of course you refuse to go by. I mean, I like your analysis. You're taken a completely different perspective on these revelations. I never thought of it that way. But Justin, you've been covering the war in Russia, and as Brigadier Singh was saying, much wanted, much flaunted. Here you have a case of a president who was actually a spy and a spy master after that, a KGB man. How did he completely analyze the Ukrainian will to fight in 2022 when he launched the invasion?
Yes, of course there was a lot of talks about how President Putin. There were obviously the Western countries knew that there were some plans going on, but Putin himself was very sure because his tank brigade, which went on almost till the capital city, it showed that he was so confident and cocky about the fact that Ukraine is just gonna fall like a pack of cards.
Right.
But he never, his intel agencies completely underestimated the level of challenge that the Ukrainians were going to put up.
Yes.
And that in itself shows that all these wanted so-called surprise attacks are not really surprises.
Right.
It's actually a basis of an intel failure that it never happened.
Right.
They didn't capture the mood of the current situation.
Yeah.
But they believe that their power, their supremacy was so overpowering,
right.
they'll be able to rough ride any situation.
Yes.
And that's where Putin also met a similar situation where he found himself wanted, had to backtrack,
Right.
and then be entrenched in a war which continues till now.
Absolutely. And in fact, we've just listed the 5 biggest intel failures over the last 50 years. You have the 1973 Yom Kippur War that Brigadier Singh mentioned, and then you have the 1999 Kargil War, which started when the Pakistan's Northern Light Infantry stealthily infiltrated and captured the heights in and around Kargil. And then you have the 9/11 attacks, where the United States was completely taken by surprise when these hijackers flew their planes into buildings. And then you have the 26/11 attacks of November 2008, where Pakistani terrorists attacked Mumbai. And finally, like you mentioned, Justin, Russia's assessment that Ukraine would collapse like a house of cards. But Brigadier Singh, how egregious is Israel's intelligence failure in the light of all of these failures? I mean, would you actually call it more like a policy failure rather than just an int failure?
You see, in my informed opinion, you know my background.
Yes.
I think the capabilities of the Israeli armed forces and its intelligence community are perhaps overrated.
Right.
And we go by the tales they tell. You know, much of opinions about the Israeli intelligence community actually stem from the stories and accounts of the inimical people, or the people that they desire and kill. Now, it needs to be noted that the role of neutralizing people is just one very, very small part of intelligence work, and that most intelligence agencies have a very distinct special activities division which handles that part. Now, intelligence work is not what you see in James Bond movies, a man moving, with lovely girls around the countryside, very fit, shooting his way through, but it's often grinding and boring. And the work of a good IC or an intelligence community, not just the agency, but a community, comprises collection of intelligence, requisite intelligence, targeted intelligence through a set of intelligence requirements, taking that raw intelligence inputs, collating them, separating them, interpreting them, juxtaposing them with a competing negative hypothesis, and then formulating a very clear assessment for decision makers to act upon. This assessment cannot be, that if this, then that, IFTT, it cannot be that. It has to be a clear-cut, non-ambiguous assessment. Now, for that, all intelligence agencies additionally have very finite resources as compared to their mandates. And therefore, their focus has to be on strategic work, as well as on aspects about which clear information is not available in the open domain. Now, my view is that in the case of Israel, their focus is largely on surveillance and tactical and operational intelligence.
Right.
And that's what they're specialized in. And in this particular case, there is clearly what we see, what happens when there is too much of surveillance. The amount of information that you get drowns you in that information overload, and you fail to see that critical bit of intelligence, which is going to be, that head of the giraffe which completes the puzzle.
Right. That's a very interesting analogy, the head of the giraffe that completes the puzzle. And in this case, the head of the giraffe happened to be the fact that the Israelis underestimated Hamas and its ability to pull off that attack.
Yes, because the report says very clearly, it states out that, it's an audacious plan, but Hamas doesn't have legs to carry this out.
That's right, the legs of the giraffe.
News9 Plus. Download now.